The diner door explodes open. 8 men in black suits step through the frame like shadows given weight. Their shoulders fill the doorway. Their eyes sweep the room with mechanical precision. Behind them, 2 figures in tailored blue emerge, briefcases in hand, expressions carved from stone. Every conversation stops mid-sentence. Forks freeze halfway to mouths. The old jukebox in the corner seems to lower its volume out of respect or fear. Caleb Rowe sits at a corner booth, coffee cup trembling in his hand. His heart slams against his ribs. He doesn't understand what's happening. He doesn't know these men. He's never seen suits that expensive outside of television. But they're walking toward him. No, not toward him. Toward her. Hi viewers. Kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. The woman in the red jacket rises slowly from her seat. She doesn't look surprised. She looks tired, resigned, like someone who's been found after a long game of hiding. One of the lawyers steps forward. His voice cuts through the silence like a blade through silk. Ms. Hargrove, he says, bowing his head slightly. We've been searching for you all morning. The room gasps as one living thing. Caleb's breath catches in his throat. Hargrove? The name lands in his chest like a stone dropped into still water. Ripples of recognition spread through his mind. He knows that name. Everyone knows that name. Hargrove Enterprises, Hargrove Foundation, Hargrove Trust, billions of dollars, generations of power, legacy older than most of the buildings in this city. And she, the woman he's been buying coffee for, sharing sandwiches with, talking about the weather with, is that Hargrove. She turns to face him. Her expression shifts. The sadness is still there, but something else has awakened beneath it. Something sharp, determined, dangerous in the way justice can be dangerous when it finally arrives. Caleb, she says softly, but loud enough for everyone to hear. I need you to come with me. His mouth opens. No words come out. The bodyguards form a protective perimeter around her table. The lawyers wait with inhuman patience. And Caleb, poor, exhausted, suspended without cause Caleb, has absolutely no idea that the next 10 seconds will rewrite the entire architecture of his life. Have you ever helped someone without knowing who they really were? Drop a comment below if kindness ever came back to you in ways you never expected. 12 hours earlier, the rain was just beginning. Caleb pulled his jacket tighter as he walked through the parking lot toward Marlowe's Corner Diner. The sky was heavy, gray, threatening to break open at any moment. His daughter Nora was already at school. He'd drop her off early because the daycare didn't open until 7 and his shift started at 6. Time was always the enemy. The diner bell chimed when he pushed through the door. Warm air rushed over him, carrying the smell of burnt coffee and bacon grease. He nodded at Maureen behind the counter. She barely looked up. He slid into his usual booth near the window. That's when he saw her again, the woman in the red jacket. She was already there, sitting alone in the far corner, staring out at the rain like she was waiting for something that would never arrive. Her blonde hair was pulled back neatly. Her hands wrapped around a white ceramic mug. Steam rose between her fingers. She'd been coming here for weeks now, always alone, always quiet, always watching the door like someone might walk through it and destroy everything. Caleb didn't know her name, didn't know her story, but he recognized the look in her eyes because he'd seen it in his own mirror plenty of times. The look of someone carrying weight no one else could see. Maureen slapped his coffee down harder than necessary. Half of it sloshed onto the saucer. You ordering food or just camping out again? She muttered. Caleb forced a smile. Just coffee today. She walked away without another word. He glanced back at the woman in the corner. One of the waiters, a younger guy named Brent, approached her table with a pot of coffee. But instead of refilling her cup, he just stood there, staring at his phone. She waited, polite, patient. After a full minute, she cleared her throat softly. Brent sighed like she'd asked him to move a mountain. He poured exactly 3 drops in her mug and walked away. Something tightened in Caleb's chest. He knew that treatment. He'd lived that treatment. The world had a way of deciding who mattered based on how much noise they made, how much space they took up, how expensive their clothes looked. And she, whoever she was, didn't look expensive, so they treated her like air. Caleb stood up, grabbed his own mug, walked over to her table. She looked up, startled. "Refills here aren't what they used to be," he said quietly, pouring half his coffee in her cup. "Figured you might need this more than me." Her eyes widened, not with gratitude, with shock. Like kindness was a language she'd forgotten existed. "Thank you," she whispered. Her voice was soft, careful. "Not many people notice." Caleb shrugged. "People notice. They just don't always care." He turned to walk back to his booth. "Wait," she called after him. He paused. She hesitated, then gestured to the seat across from her. "Would you want to sit?" Caleb glanced at the clock. He had 15 minutes before his shift. He sat down, and neither of them knew it yet, but that decision, 15 minutes of shared silence and bad diner coffee, would become the hinge upon which both their futures would swing. His name was Caleb Rowe, and he was 34 years old. He lived in a one-bedroom apartment on the east side of town where the rent was cheap because the walls were thin and the heat only worked half the time. His daughter Nora slept in the bedroom. He slept on the couch. That's how it had been for 3 years now, ever since his wife Shanice died in a car accident that no one saw coming. One moment she was driving home from her sister's house. The next moment she was gone. The hospital said it was instant, painless. Caleb wasn't sure if that made it better or worse. Pain at least would have given him something to fight. Instead, he was left with silence, absence. A 6-year-old daughter who kept asking when mommy was coming back. He lost his second job 2 weeks after the funeral. The manager said it was budget cuts, but Caleb knew the truth. The man didn't want to deal with someone who might need time off for grief or childcare or any of the messy human things that got in the way of productivity. "I can't have people bringing their personal problems to work," the manager had said, as if grief was something you could leave at the door like an umbrella. So Caleb worked one job now, delivery driver for a logistics company called Hallright. The pay was barely enough. The hours were long, and his supervisor, a man named Darnell Halburn, watched him like a hawk circling something wounded. But Caleb had a rule he lived by, even when everything else fell apart. Don't let the world turn you cold. His mother used to say that. She died when he was 16, but her voice still lived in his head, especially on the hard mornings. The mornings when Nora cried because she missed her mom. The mornings when the bills stacked higher than his paycheck. The mornings when he wasn't sure how he'd make it through another day. On those mornings, he came to Marlowe's Corner Diner. It was inexpensive, quiet, and Maureen, despite her rough edges, let Nora color on the placemats with crayons while Caleb drank burnt coffee and tried to remember what hope tasted like. That's where he first noticed the woman in the red jacket. She sat in the corner booth every morning around the same time he arrived. Always alone, always with a camera on the table beside her, always staring out the rain-streaked window like she was looking for something she'd lost a long time ago. The staff ignored her, walked past her table without refilling her water, took 20 minutes to bring her food, spoke to her in that flat, dismissive tone people use when they've already decided you don't matter. And Caleb recognized that tone. He'd heard it his whole life. At grocery stores where security followed him down aisles for no reason. At parent-teacher conferences where the principal spoke slower, louder, like volume could fix misunderstanding. At his job, where Hal Byrne asked him to clock in early, but somehow always questioned his hours at the end of the week. Invisibility was exhausting. So when he saw her sitting there, shivering slightly, hands wrapped around an empty mug, waiting for a refill that would never come, he didn't think. He just acted, walked over, poured her coffee, smiled. She looked at him like he'd handed her the moon. "Thank you," she whispered. And for the first time in weeks, Caleb felt like maybe, just maybe, the world wasn't entirely broken. Have you ever been the person people overlook until they need something from you? Her name was Avellini. She told him that on the third morning. They'd fallen into a rhythm by then. He'd arrive at 6:15. She'd already be there, camera beside her, staring at the rain. He'd walk over with his coffee pot, pour her a cup, sit down if he had time, talk about nothing important, the weather, the strange customers. The way Maureen's mood could be predicted by how hard she slammed plates onto tables. But Avellini never talked about herself. Not really. She'd deflect, change the subject, smile politely, and ask him another question instead. "Do you have family?" she asked one morning. Caleb nodded. "A daughter, Nora. She's 6. Avelini's expression softened. "That's a beautiful name. Her mom picked it," Caleb said quietly. Said it meant light. Past tense. Caleb looked down at his coffee. 3 years now. Avelini didn't say she was sorry. Didn't offer empty condolences. She just nodded, like she understood that some losses didn't fit into words. They sat in silence for a while. Then Caleb asked, "What about you? You got family?" Avelini hesitated. Her fingers tightened around her mug. "It's complicated," she said finally. "Complicated how?" "The kind of complicated where having money makes people think they own you." Caleb blinked. "You got money?" She looked away. "I said having money. I didn't say it was mine." Before he could ask what that meant, her phone buzzed on the table. She glanced at the screen. Her entire body tensed. She declined the call without answering. "You okay?" Caleb asked. "Fine," she said quickly. Too quickly, but her eyes darted toward the door, like she was expecting someone to walk through it. Someone she didn't want to see. Caleb didn't push. Everyone had their secrets. Their reasons for sitting alone in diners at dawn. Their reasons for flinching when phones rang. But he noticed the way she always sat facing the door. The way she kept her jacket on, even when the diner was warm. The way she never ordered food, just coffee, refilled until her hands stopped shaking. She was hiding. He didn't know from what, but he recognized the posture of someone trying to disappear. On the 5th morning, she asked him a question that caught him off guard. "Caleb, do you believe kindness matters?" He frowned. "What do you mean?" "I mean, in a world like this, where people step over each other to get ahead, where power and money decide who gets seen and who gets erased. Do you really think kindness changes anything?" Caleb thought about it. About Nora's teacher who stayed late to help her with reading when she fell behind. About the neighbor who brought groceries when Caleb's check was short. About Shanice, who used to leave notes in his lunchbox just to make him smile. "Yeah," he said finally. "I do." Avelini stared at him for a long moment. Then she smiled. Not the polite, guarded smile she usually wore. A real one. "Good," she whispered. "I was hoping you'd say that." And before Caleb could ask what she meant, her phone buzzed again. This time, she answered. Her face went pale. She stood up abruptly, grabbing her camera. "I have to go," she said, voice tight. "Everything okay?" She looked at him. Her eyes were desperate, afraid. "Caleb, if I asked you to trust me, really trust me, even if things got strange, would you?" He didn't understand the question, but he nodded anyway. She exhaled shakily. "Thank you," she whispered. Then she walked out into the rain. And Caleb sat there, staring at the empty seat across from him, wondering what kind of storm he'd just agreed to stand in. Work was suffocating. Caleb clocked in at 7, same as always. The warehouse smelled like diesel and cardboard. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Rows of packages stretched toward the loading docks like soldiers waiting for orders. He grabbed his scanner and started loading his truck. "Row!" The voice came from behind him. Caleb turned. Darnell Halburn stood there, clipboard in hand, jaw tight. He was a tall man with graying hair and eyes that never quite looked at you. They looked through you, like you were something to be assessed and dismissed. "Morning, Mr. Halburn," Caleb said. Halburn didn't return the greeting. "We need to talk." "My office." "Now." Caleb's stomach dropped. He followed Halburn through the warehouse, past other drivers who quickly looked away. Everyone knew what it meant when Halburn called you into his office. Nothing good. The office was small. Gray walls. A desk covered in paperwork. A calendar from 2 years ago still hanging crooked on the wall. Halburn sat down. Didn't offer Caleb a chair. "We've had complaints," Halburn said, flipping through papers. "Customer says you were rude during a delivery last week. Dismissive. Unprofessional." Caleb frowned. "Which customer?" "That's confidential." "But I didn't." "And there's missing inventory from your last route." Halburn continued, not looking up. "A package marked delivered, but never received." Caleb's pulse quickened. "Sir, I can pull the delivery logs. I scanned everything. I followed protocol." "Protocol?" Halburn finally looked at him. His eyes were cold. "You know how many times I've heard that word for people in your position? My position? Halburn leaned back in his chair. People who think the rules don't apply to them. People who think they can coast by on excuses. I'm not making excuses, Caleb said, voice steady despite the fire building in his chest. I'm telling you what happened. Let me check the system. Let me prove. You're suspended, Halburn interrupted. Effective immediately, pending investigation. The words hit like a fist to the gut. Suspended. Caleb's voice cracked. Mr. Halburn, I have a daughter. I have rent. I can't afford. Should have thought about that before you got sloppy. I wasn't sloppy. This is wrong. You know this is wrong. Halburn stood up. His height felt like a weapon. You people, he said slowly, deliberately, always have excuses. The room went still. You people. Those two words carried generations of weight. Caleb's hands clenched at his sides. His jaw tightened. He wanted to scream, to flip the desk, to demand the respect he'd earned through 3 years of perfect deliveries and double shifts, and never once complaining. But he didn't, because he knew what happened to black men who got angry in front of men like Halburn. So he swallowed the fire, turned around, walked out. Behind him, he heard Halburn muttering to someone on the phone. Yeah, it's handled. Told you I'd take care of it. Caleb stepped into the parking lot. The sky was gray again, rain starting to fall. He sat in his car and stared at the steering wheel. His hands were shaking. He had $17 in his checking account. Rent was due in 5 days. Nora needed new shoes, and he just lost the only income keeping him afloat. For a moment, he thought about Shanice, what she would say, what she would do, but she wasn't here, and he was alone, except he thought about Avelini, the woman in the red jacket, the woman who asked if kindness mattered, the woman who made him promise to trust her. He didn't know why, but something told him to go back to the diner. So he started the engine and drove through the rain, not knowing that in exactly 43 minutes, 8 bodyguards and 2 lawyers would walk through that diner door and change everything. Would you have spoken up or stayed quiet to keep your job? Como olvidó? Caleb's car keys slipped from his hand. They hit the pavement with a metallic clink that sounds too loud in the silent parking lot. He bends down to pick them up. His fingers won't stop shaking. He tries once, twice. On the 3rd attempt, he finally grips them tight enough to stand. The rain is coming down harder now. Cold, relentless. He walks to his car like a man underwater. Every step slow, heavy, disconnected from his body. He opens the door, sits down, closes the door. The world outside becomes muffled, distant. He stares at the steering wheel. His breath comes in short, uneven bursts. You people always have excuses. The words loop in his head like a song he can't turn off. Each repetition carves deeper. He's heard variations of that phrase his entire life. Different words, same poison. Teachers who assumed he cheated when his grades were good. Store clerks who followed him down aisles. Cops who pulled him over for driving through the wrong neighborhood at the wrong time. But this was different. This wasn't suspicion. This was execution. Halburn didn't just fire him. He destroyed him, accused him of theft, rudeness, incompetence, put it all on record. Made sure Caleb's name would be flagged in every background check, every job application, every attempt to rebuild. And for what? Caleb had done nothing wrong. He'd shown up early, stayed late, covered shifts for people who called in sick, never missed a delivery, never damaged a package, never once complained about the way Halburn watched him like a guard watching an inmate. But none of that mattered, because in Halburn's eyes, Caleb wasn't a person. He was a problem to be managed, a liability to be removed, a statistic that could be erased with a signature and a lie. Caleb's vision blurs. He blinks hard, once, twice. He refuses to cry in this parking lot. Refuses to give Halburn that satisfaction, even though the man isn't watching. His phone buzzes. A text from Nora's school. Reminder, field trip payment due Friday. $45. $45. He has 17. His chest tightens. He can't breathe right. The car feels too small. The air too thick. He rolls down the window. Rain sprays his face. It doesn't help. He thinks about Nora. Her bright smile when he picks her up from school. The way she holds his hand too tight when they cross the street. The way she still sleeps with the stuffed rabbit Shanice made her before she died. What was he supposed to tell her? That daddy lost his job because a man decided he didn't belong? That they might lose the apartment? That sometimes the world just decides you don't matter, and there's nothing you can do about it? He slams his fist against the steering wheel. The horn blares. Birds scatter from a nearby tree. He sits there, chest heaving, rain soaking his sleeve, and for the first time in 3 years, he feels the weight of it all threatening to crush him completely. But then, through the rain, through the fog in his head, he remembers something. Avellini, her voice, quiet, certain. If I asked you to trust me, really trust me, even if things got strange, would you? He doesn't know why that memory surfaces now. Doesn't know why it matters. But it does. He wipes his face, starts the engine, pulls out of the parking lot, and drives straight to Marlowe's Corner Diner. Because right now, the only place that feels even remotely safe is a booth by the window where someone once looked at him like he was worth noticing. He doesn't know that in less than 20 minutes, everything he thought he understood about the world will shatter and reassemble into something entirely different. He doesn't know that kindness is about to pay a dividend he never imagined. He just knows he can't sit in that parking lot anymore. So he drives, through the rain, toward the only person who ever saw him without judgment. She's already there when he walks in. Avellini sits in the corner booth, hands wrapped around a mug, staring at nothing. But when the door opens, when Caleb steps through, soaked and shaking, her head snaps up immediately. Her eyes widen. She stands before he even reaches the table. "Caleb," she says. Not a question, a statement. Like she's been waiting for him. He collapses into the seat across from her. Water drips from his jacket onto the vinyl. He doesn't care, can't care. Everything inside him feels hollowed out. "What happened?" she asks quietly. He opens his mouth, closes it, opens it again. "I lost my job." The words come out flat, empty, like saying them out loud made them real in a way they weren't before. Avellini doesn't react with shock or pity. She just nods slowly, waiting. So Caleb tells her everything. The false accusation, the missing package he never lost, the customer complaint that didn't exist, Halbern's smirk, the way he said you people like it was a diagnosis instead of an insult, the suspension, the certainty that he'd never work in that industry again because Halbern made sure of it. He talks until his voice cracks, until the words run out, until the only sound left is the rain against the window and Maureen dropping plates in the kitchen. Avellini listens to every word. She doesn't interrupt, doesn't offer platitudes or false hope. She just listens with an intensity that makes Caleb feel like maybe, just maybe, his story matters. When he finishes, she's silent for a long moment. Her jaw tightens. Her fingers drum once against the table. Then she looks at him, and something in her expression has shifted. The sadness is still there, but underneath it, something sharper has awakened. Something that looks like anger, like purpose, like justice waiting to be served. "Caleb," she says slowly, carefully, "do you trust me?" He remembers her asking him that before, on the phone, right before she ran out of the diner like someone was chasing her. "I don't even know you," he says honestly. "I know. You never told me what you're hiding from. I know that too. So why should I trust you?" Avellini leans forward. Her eyes lock onto his. There's no hesitation in them now. No fear. Just certainty. Because what happened to you today was wrong. And I have the resources to make it right. But I need you to trust me when things get complicated. Complicated how? She glances toward the door. Her phone buzzes on the table. She ignores it. "Caleb, I haven't been honest with you. Not completely. I came to this diner because I needed to disappear for a while. I needed to see how people treat each other when they think no one important is watching." What does that mean? It means I've spent my whole life in rooms where people only see my last name, where every conversation is a transaction, where kindness is a strategy, not a choice. Caleb frowns. "Your last name?" Before she can answer, her phone buzzes again. This time she picks it up, reads the screen. Her face goes pale. "They found me," she whispers. "Who?" She stands abruptly, grabbing her jacket. "Caleb, listen to me very carefully. In about 30 seconds, some people are going to walk through that door. They're going to look intimidating. But I need you to stay calm. I need you to trust that I'm trying to help you. Help me? What are you? Do you trust me? Her voice is urgent now, almost desperate. Caleb doesn't understand what's happening. Doesn't understand why this woman who drinks bad coffee and stares at rain suddenly looks like someone preparing for war. But he nods, because something in her eyes tells him she's the only person in the world right now who actually sees him. Good, she says, and she sits back down, takes a deep breath, and waits. Caleb's about to ask what they're waiting for when the diner door explodes open. The bell doesn't just ring, it shatters. 8 men pour through the entrance like a flood. Black suits, broad shoulders, earpieces. They move with military precision, scanning the room, assessing exits, positioning themselves strategically around the space. The diner goes silent instantly. Forks freeze midair. Conversations die mid-sentence. Maureen drops a plate. It shatters. No one looks at her. Behind the bodyguards, 2 people step through. A man and a woman, both wearing tailored blue suits, both carrying leather briefcases, both moving with the kind of confidence that comes from never hearing the word no. Every eye in the diner follows them, except Avelini's. She sits perfectly still, staring at her coffee. One of the lawyers, the man tall, gray-haired, expressionless, steps forward. He scans the room until his eyes land on Avelini. Relief flashes across his face, quickly replaced by professional composure. He approaches the table. Caleb's heart pounds so hard he can feel it in his throat. The lawyer stops 3 feet away, bows his head slightly. "Ms. Hargrove," he says, voice respectful but firm. "We've been searching for you all morning. Your family has been extremely concerned." The room erupts in whispers. "Hargrove? Did he say Hargrove? No way. That's..." Caleb stares at Avelini. She doesn't look at the lawyer. She looks at Caleb. Her expression is calm now, almost apologetic. "My name," she says clearly, loud enough for everyone to hear, "is Avelini Hargrove." The whispers grow louder. Caleb's mind races. Hargrove. Hargrove. Hargrove Enterprises. The company that owns half the commercial real estate in the city. Hargrove Foundation. The charity that funds hospitals and schools. Hargrove Trust. The investment firm worth billions. And this woman, this quiet, ignored, coffee-drinking woman in a red jacket, is that Hargrove? "Why didn't you tell me?" Caleb whispers. She smiles sadly. "Would you have treated me the same if you knew?" He opens his mouth, closes it, because the answer is yes. He would have, but most people wouldn't. The lawyer clears his throat. "Ms. Hargrove, if you'd please come with us. There are urgent matters that require..." "I'm not leaving yet," Avelini interrupts. The lawyer blinks. "Excuse me. I said I'm not leaving." She turns to face him fully now. Her voice is no longer soft, no longer uncertain. It's steel wrapped in silk. "I came here for a reason, and I'm not finished. With respect, Ms. Hargrove." "With respect, Marcus," she says sharply. "I didn't ask for your opinion. I stated a fact." The lawyer, Marcus, straightens. The bodyguards shift slightly, awaiting orders. Avelini stands. She's not tall, not physically imposing, but the room feels smaller around her, like gravity just shifted in her direction. She looks at Caleb. "This man," she says, gesturing toward him, "showed me kindness when no one else did. He saw me, not my name, not my money, just me. And today he lost his job because of prejudice and lies." The diner is so quiet you could hear breathing. "So here's what's going to happen," Avelini continues, voice rising. "You're going to contact Hallright Logistics. You're going to request every internal document related to Caleb Rowe's suspension. Every email, every complaint, every delivery log. And you're going to find out exactly who falsified evidence against him." Marcus nods. "Consider it done." And then, Avelini says, stepping closer to Caleb, "We're going to make sure justice is served. Not the quiet kind, the loud kind. The kind that makes sure this never happens to anyone else." She turns back to Caleb. Her eyes are softer now. "I asked if you trusted me," she says. "Do you still?" Caleb can't speak, can't process what's happening. A billionaire, a woman worth more money than he'll see in 10 lifetimes. standing in a diner, defending him. He nods. Good, she whispers, because what comes next is going to feel unreal. But I promise you, it's justice. And you deserve it. She extends her hand toward him. Not as a billionaire, as a friend. Caleb takes it, and the moment their hands clasp, he realizes that kindness didn't just come back to him. It came back with an army. 3 days later, Caleb sits in a conference room he never imagined entering. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlook the city. The table is polished glass. The chairs cost more than his rent. Everything smells like expensive leather and power. Across from him sits Marcus, Avellini's lead attorney. Beside Marcus is a woman named Simone, a forensic investigator who specializes in workplace discrimination cases. And beside Caleb sits Avellini, not in a red jacket this time, in a sharp charcoal suit, hair pulled back, every inch the billionaire heiress the world expects. But when she glances at him, he sees the same woman from the diner, the one who cupped her hands around a coffee mug like it was the only warm thing left in the world. Marcus slides a folder across the table. We've completed the investigation, he says. As suspected, the complaint against you is fabricated. The missing package was logged incorrectly by another driver, someone Halburn specifically told to route the error to your account. Caleb's jaw tightens. He set me up? Deliberately, Simone adds. We pulled internal communications. Halburn has a documented history of targeting black employees. 5 suspensions in 2 years. 3 terminations, all following the same pattern. False accusations, missing documentation, convenient complaints. Rage burns in Caleb's chest. So what happens now? Avellini leans forward. Now you decide. Decide what? What justice looks like, she says simply. We have enough evidence to file a lawsuit. Discrimination, wrongful termination, emotional distress. You'd win, easily. Paul Wright would settle before it ever reached court. Caleb stares at the folder. And if I don't want to sue, then we make it public, Avellini says. We release the evidence to media outlets. We make sure every journalist in the city knows what Halburn did. We make sure his name becomes synonymous with bigotry and cowardice. Or, Marcus adds, you walk away. Take a settlement. Move on with your life. Caleb sits back in the chair. A month ago, he would have taken the money and run. Would have been grateful just to survive. But something has changed. Something Avellini said in the diner keeps echoing in his mind. Kindness is the one thing they can't take from you. He looks at Avellini. What would you do? She smiles. I'd burn it all down. But that's me. You're not obligated to carry that fight. What if I want to? Her smile widens. Then we make sure no one forgets his name. Caleb nods slowly. Let's do that. Marcus closes the folder. We'll have a press conference scheduled by Friday. You'll need to prepare a statement. Are you ready for that level of attention? Caleb thinks about Nora, about the apartment, about every morning he woke up wondering if this would be the day everything collapsed. Yeah, he says, I'm ready. Avellini reaches across the table, places her hand over his. Thank you, she says quietly. For what? For reminding me why I started the foundation in the first place. I've spent years writing checks and attending galas, but I forgot what it feels like to actually help someone, to see their face when justice arrives. Caleb squeezes her hand. You didn't just help me. You saved me. No, Avellini says. You saved me first. You just didn't know it. They sit there for a moment. 2 people from completely different worlds, connected by something as simple and as radical as kindness. Outside the window, the city stretches endlessly, and somewhere in that city, Darnell Halburn is about to learn that cruelty has consequences. That power doesn't protect you from truth, and that sometimes the people you dismiss are the ones who change everything. The press conference happens on a Friday morning. Caleb stands behind a podium with Avellini beside him. Cameras flash like lightning. Reporters shout questions. The room buzzes with energy that feels both terrifying and electric. Caleb clears his throat. Read from the statement Marcus helped him write. My name is Caleb Rowe. I'm a single father, a delivery driver, and for 3 years, I worked for a company that treated me like I was disposable. Not because I did anything wrong, but because a man in power decided I didn't belong. His voice is steady, strong. I'm here today because someone saw me when I was invisible. Someone reminded me that kindness isn't weakness. It's currency, and it pays dividends in ways money never could. He glances at Avellini. She nods. He continues. Darnell Halburn fabricated evidence to destroy my career. He targeted me because of my race, and he's done it to others. But today, we're making sure he can't do again. The room erupts in questions. Caleb steps back. Avellini steps forward. The Hargrove Foundation is launching an initiative, she announces. We're partnering with labor rights organizations to investigate workplace discrimination across the logistics industry. We're offering free legal support to workers who've been wrongfully terminated. And we're creating a fund to help families survive while they fight for justice. More questions, more flashes, but Caleb doesn't hear them. Because for the first time in years, he feels seen. Not as a statistic, not as a problem, as a person. After the conference, Avellini walks him to the elevator. What are you going to do now? She asks. Caleb smiles. Pick up my daughter. Take her to the park. Tell her that sometimes the world surprises you. And after that, I don't know yet, but I'm not scared anymore. Avellini hands him an envelope. What's this? A job offer. The foundation needs a community outreach coordinator. Someone who understands what it's like to be overlooked. Someone who leads with kindness. Caleb opens the envelope, stares at the number on the salary line. His breath catches. This is fair, Avellini says. It's what you're worth, what you've always been worth. Tears blur his vision. He hugs her, and she hugs him back. Two strangers who became friends over bad coffee and share humanity. Thank you, he whispers. No, she says. Thank you for teaching me that power isn't about how much you have. It's about what you do with it. The elevator doors open. Caleb steps inside. Turns back. See you Monday, he asks. Avellini grins. See you Monday. The doors close. And as Caleb descends toward the lobby, toward his daughter, toward his future, toward a life rebuilt on kindness and justice, he thinks about the diner, about rain on windows, about coffee refills and quiet mornings, about how sometimes the smallest acts of compassion create earthquakes that reshape the world. Because in the end, kindness isn't just currency, it's revolution. And Caleb Rowe just started one. 6 months later, the diner looks exactly the same. Same cracked vinyl booths, same buzzing fluorescent lights, same smell of burnt coffee and bacon grease, same rain hitting the windows in that familiar rhythm. Soft at first, then heavy like the sky can't decide how much to let go. But everything else has changed. Caleb walks through the door at 6:15 in the morning, just like he used to. Except now he's wearing a suit. Not expensive, but clean, pressed. The kind of suit that says he belongs in rooms where decisions get made. Maureen looks up from behind the counter. Her expression softens when she sees him. Haven't seen you in a while, she says. Been busy, Caleb replies with a smile. Heard about what happened. With Halburn. With the lawsuit. She pours him coffee without asking. Slides it across the counter. Heard you're working with the Hargrove Foundation now. Community Outreach Coordinator. Maureen nods slowly. Good. You always were too kind for this world. Nice to see the world finally caught up. Caleb takes the coffee. Walks toward the corner booth. She's already there. Avellini sits by the window, camera beside her, staring out at the rain. But when she sees him, her whole face lights up. You're late, she says. Traffic. Liar. You just like making an entrance now. Caleb laughs. Sits down across from her. How's the foundation work going? Exhausting, Avellini admits. We've opened cases for 43 workers in the past 3 months. 26 settlements already. For lawsuits pending. And we're expanding to 3 more cities by the end of the year. That's incredible. It's necessary. She takes a sip of coffee. But it's also lonely sometimes. Turns out most people still see the money before they see me. Not everyone. She smiles. No, not everyone. They sit in comfortable silence for a moment. The door opens. A young woman walks in. She's maybe 22, dressed in a waitress uniform from another restaurant. Her eyes are red. She's been crying. She approaches their table hesitantly. "Excuse me," she says quietly. Are you Caleb Rowe?" Caleb nods. "I am. I saw you on the news. The press conference. About what happened at Hallright." Her voice cracks. "Something similar happened to me. At the restaurant where I work. My manager, she stops. Wipes her eyes. "I don't know what to do. I can't afford a lawyer. I can't afford to lose my job. But I can't keep going like this." Caleb stands up, pulls out a business card. Hand it to her. "Call this number," he says gently. "Ask for Marcus. Tell him I sent you. The foundation will help you. Legal support. Financial assistance while you fight. You're not alone anymore." The woman stares at the card like it's a lifeline. Really? Tears spilled down her cheeks. Thank you so much." She walks away, clutching the card like it's made of gold. Avellini watches her go, then turns back to Caleb. "You're good at this," she says. "At what?" "Seeing people. Really seeing them." Caleb shrugs. "Someone taught me that matters." "Who?" "A woman in a red jacket who reminded me that kindness isn't weakness." Avellini's eyes shine. She sounds smart. She is. The door opens again. This time it's Nora. She bursts through the entrance, backpack bouncing, braids flying. When she sees Caleb, she runs straight to him. "Daddy!" He catches her, lifts her up, spins her once. "Hey, baby girl. How was school?" "Good. Ms. Patterson said my essay about you was the best in the class." "Yeah? What did you write about?" "About how you're a superhero. But instead of fighting bad guys with punches, you fight them with kindness." Caleb's throat tightens. He sits her down gently. Nora looks at Avellini. "Hi, Miss Avellini. Hi, sweetheart. You want hot chocolate?" "Yes, please." Avellini waves at Maureen, who already knows the order. Nora slides into the booth between them. And for a moment, Caleb just looks at this scene. His daughter, safe, happy, excited about essays and hot chocolate. A woman who became family not through blood, but through shared humanity. A diner that once felt like the only place he belonged, now just one of many. Because the world is bigger now. Kinder now. Not perfect, not even close, but better. And it's better because people decided to see each other, to help each other, to remember that power without compassion is just noise. Outside, the rain begins to slow. The sun breaks through the clouds in thin golden streaks. And Caleb thinks about Shanice, about how she used to say that kindness was a seed you planted without knowing what would grow. She was right. He planted seeds in a diner, and they grew into a forest. What seed are you planting? Comment below and let us know how you're spreading kindness in your world. Subscribe so you never miss a story that reminds you compassion still changes everything. Turn on notifications. The next story might be exactly what you need to hear. Share your thoughts. Inspire others. Let's build this forest together. 1 year after the diner doors opened to lawyers and bodyguards, Darnell Halburn sits in a different kind of room. No windows, gray walls, a single table. Across from him sits an investigator from the Department of Labor. "Mr. Halburn," the investigator says, flipping through a file. "We've identified a pattern of discriminatory practices spanning 7 years. 19 employees, all black or Latino, all terminated under suspicious circumstances." Halburn says nothing. "Your employment with Hallright has been terminated. You're currently under investigation for fraud, discrimination, and falsification of company records. You're facing federal charges." Still nothing. "Do you have anything to say?" Halburn finally looks up. His face is hollow, defeated. "I was just doing my job." The investigator closes the file. "No," she says coldly. "You were doing harm, and now you're facing consequences." She stands, walks out, leaves Halburn sitting alone in the gray room, surrounded by the wreckage of his own cruelty. Meanwhile, across the city, Caleb walks into the Hargrove Foundation headquarters. His office overlooks the park where he used to take Nora when money was too tight for anything else. On his desk sits a photo. Him, Nora, and Avellini, taken at the diner. All three of them smiling. Beside the photo is a plaque. "Kindness Coordinator, Caleb Rowe." He smiles. Sits down, opens his laptop. 47 new emails from workers asking for help. He reads each one carefully, takes notes, responds with the same words someone once gave him. You're not alone anymore. Because that's what kindness does. It multiplies. It spreads. It refuses to stay small. And somewhere in the city, in diners and warehouses and offices and homes, people are starting to see each other again. Starting to remember that the person serving coffee might be someone's whole world. That the delivery driver might be fighting battles no one sees. That the quiet stranger might be exactly who you need. And that sometimes all it takes to change everything is one person deciding to care. One cup of coffee, one moment of attention, one act of kindness that refuses to stay silent. The rain starts again outside Caleb's window. Soft at first, then heavy, but this time it doesn't feel conflicted. It feels like cleansing, like the world washing itself clean. And Caleb gets back to work, because there are more seeds to plant, more forests to grow, and a whole world waiting to remember that kindness isn't just nice. It's revolutionary. This is where Caleb's story ends, but yours is still being written. What will you do with your power to see people? To help them? To plant seeds that grow into forests? Tell us in the comments. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss stories that remind you humanity still wins. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. Let's keep building a world where kindness isn't the exception, it's the rule. Your voice matters. Use it below.